Hello friends, welcome back for Ethereum Technical Analysis. I'm Rocky Outcrop, this is the Rocky Outcrop channel. I hope you're all doing really well out there. Hit that subscribe button, go on, hit it, go on, hit it, go on, hit it, go on. I know you want it. Right, anyway, thanks so much for joining me today. Just kicked the camera, just kicked you. I'm sorry, I apologize. I don't mean to kick anybody. What have we got up here? This is the 4-hour Ethereum chart. It's the BitMEX chart that I've got for this. It's just what I've been using for ages. Who cares? We know that we saw the sort of the 245 area be respected in terms of our target recently. Since then, of course, as the commenter on the YouTube video who went short into that area has now been able to, if he wanted to, take profits. Actually, instead of drawing it down to where it went to, let's just look at the horizontal line we had on the chart. You know, at 230 area, let's painting by numbers, trading by numbers, like painting by numbers that make it easy. Oh, a solid 6%, 6%. I'm not a financial advisor. None of this is financial advice at all, ever. Trading that at 10x, you've just increased your account size by 60%. Well done, buddy. Super happy for you. As if you traded with your whole account. Indeed, if you traded with 10% of your account at 10x, then you've increased your account size by I don't even know, whatever. I can't bother doing maths. I'm not in this for maths, by the way. I actually know very few traders who are very, very good at trading who are actually really like maths. What? No. Anyway, what are we looking at here? Could this potentially turn into some sort of Adam and Eve type pattern or something like that? What could it be? What could we be looking at? This is just the early doors, early stages, but this is something to be kind of taken into account, to be aware of. We're going to have to look again at this line here at 230 and say this is obviously quite important. What we've got so far though is a high followed up by a low. I'm not going to say that this was the previous low because that's part of the upward trend. This here is the previous low, so it's not a lower low quite yet, although if you were being brutal about it, you could say it is. If you went to the 1 hour time frame, then you would say like this is your low, this is a lower low, okay, this is a lower high, this is etc. But that's pushing things. Even the 4 hour time frame's pushing things, to be perfectly honest with everyone out there watching. So yeah, anyway, that's what we've got on the go. Looking back then, 245 area again, going to be the sort of the next area. Can we beat it? Can we not? Can we get a higher high in? Looking towards 250, really essentially, can we get up to don't know why I did that. Can we get up to 250 on this thing here, or are we going to get a correction of some sort? Should we go above 250? Then, of course, the next horizontal line I have on here, 256, maybe we'd see a wick up there or something like that. Maybe that would be the next, profit-taking line. It certainly is one we've marked on the charts. And then thereafter, you've got this green line here. Let me just double check what that actually is. Yeah, it's the 618 here, the 618, the golden pocket. So, that would be the golden pocket for all of this upward price movement here that we've had all the way up here from the lows back there. If you're looking up for a Fibonacci retracement area at 260, call it, for that golden pocket there, just at the 618, you'd call it about 260, just in terms of where the 618's at, 259, 260 for the golden pocket. Right, okay, so that's what you'd be looking at on the upside if we can do that. If not, I forgot to look at the oscillators on Bitcoin. Don't really care. I was a pretty damn good Bitcoin video anyway without the oscillators. Didn't need them. What we got on here, potential head and shoulders on the RSI, potentially, what we've got is a high here and this being low here. So, we want to see this come up and be higher, and close at 250. And at the same time, in order to do that, it's going to have to counterintuitively go into this oversold, overbought area. It's going to have to do that. It's going to have to be quite enthusiastic about this. So there could be a little bit of extra volatility in around the area of that closing as a result of this necessity in order to avoid having bearish divergence on the chart here, which, it looks like the minute, just in terms of the 4 hours, that could be a potential for it. We've got this upward rising wedge here on this thing, which is, could be slightly bearish. This doesn't fit on because it's a 24-hour pattern that I drew on here, but essentially there. So the question remains: will that be the case? Looking in here at the RSI on the 24 hours, since we're back on this now. What have we got? Well, we have it's too early to say whether or not, you know, the next high is coming in. It's definitely too early. It'd be premature to say if we're going to get bearish divergence yet. You know, we're nowhere near the last two couple of candles. They're not anything. But this 245 area, is that anything to be noted? Well, yes, it's very much distinct. Here is your previous high. Here is that. Here's the previous high. Here's that. Here's the previous high. Here's that, here's the previous high, here's that. What do you call that? I'll leave it with you to decide what that's called. I think it's really obvious if you've been subscribed here. It's called bearish divergence, right? Subscribe, just subscribe, okay? And eventually you'll be able to do all this yourself, rapido style. So what do we have in terms of the DMI looking at this? Well, we have this upward movement in the DM positive, which is happening under bearish divergence conditions, and we have a downward sloping trend line on there on the 24-hour time frame, which has been respected overall in that previous high. Could we see this coming back down again and converging? Let's just see if the ADX can pick itself up at all. It's been diminishing this whole time that we've had this upward trend. It's been diminishing really since back here when it started going up on the 11th of May again. So, you know, this was quite volatile. We had 20% moves and everything else around there. And then it's come up as far as this. And so during this whole upward trend, the ADX, which is the sort of strength of trend line there, has been going down. If it goes down underneath 15 in general, I start thinking maybe we'll get some volatility. If it goes down underneath, you know, 10, then you've got volatility coming in for sure. At some point, you'll get some sort of 10% moves, pretty much. You know, like, I'm not a financial advisor, none of this financial advice. I always have to say that if I say, I feel like I have to say that if I say anything that's, you know, whatever. So is this flattering to deceive at the minute? This blue line moving up the way, it certainly is flattering to deceive. If I just move everything off the screen, this flatters to deceive contra, you know, this. All right, okay, so that's what we're looking at overall on that one. How will things go? I don't know. 230 is our bottom line side. 250 would be necessity for a higher high. Look at the divergence as that's coming in, and look towards 256, I suppose, is your upward side target. Bear in mind there is an ascending triangle here on the stochastics. These patterns can work out, they can, and that would maybe see us get some sort of you know, final blast off here before coming back down again. If that was the case, you know, we could be looking at 290 as you know, in the most extreme senses, where we have our previous high over there. Wouldn't be surprised at all to see profit taken at the 618 though instead, as a result of what I was just speaking about. And if it did get past there at 279 as opposed to actually all the way up at 290, would be where I would be looking at for now. And in terms of the downside, of course, 230, 225, where the 50% Fibonacci is, 220, which is like, you know, we spoke about 220 so many times in the past. Subscribe. And then 236, the 236 coming in at there at 211. This is done body to body. If I do it wick to wick, it comes in at 209. So like, let's just call it 210, shall we, and make it easy on ourselves. And then bear in mind that, of course, if it did that right away, then they'd be coming down past this upward support line here, and that would be tragically bearish. You'd be looking down then thereafter to 191 and perhaps even as far as 177 thereafter. Thanks so much for tuning in. Really appreciate the people joining me for these videos daily. If you've got a friend out there who you think would like them, please go ahead and share it with them. And as ever, I always want to recommend to people to watch the Bitcoin video. There's always tons, a heap of educational content in there. Remember as well, this 4-hour time frame. Let's see how this all pans out. If we get something on the go, perhaps an Adam and Eve, perhaps, you know, whatever, and we'll see how that goes. And in general, you know, don't need to get too carried away. Basically, all we're looking at here is a low with potential lower high coming in. In fact, you know, we could just see it come down and just have a little sort of trend towards the downside. Looking to the left, is there any sort of beneficial aspect towards that? If I just go back up to 24-hour time frame and waste your time again, everything always comes after I say bye. Always recommend to people to stay past the point where I say goodbye, because you'll miss out on the good content. If not, if there's something positive to be said about this, then you've got a high here and a pretty much equal high here, a base in here, and you could be looking at a cup with handle type formation. Just point out as well the fact that you had this high here and this high here, and then you had a cup with handle here. This is the handle here, and this is the follow through from that. And if you wanted to do a measured move off the back of this thing, as I spoke about with somebody in the Discord, by the way, join the Discord link down below, then you could look at it like this. This is being generous. I just want to point that out. And you could say that we haven't got our full measured move off this because we've not gone up to 330 quite yet. But of course, we could just still be doing that overall here and see this pan out later, with this being the previous top, given the fact that this was a fairly weak one in this area compared to this one, you know, overall. And indeed, we'll just have to wait and see if things pan out with the actual previous top, really, you know, at 290, then coming in as incredibly significant area. Let's not get too carried away. And none of us particularly care how these things pan out as traders. Again, watch the Bitcoin video, please do. I really recommend it. I don't think that there's much better. When I make these videos, by the way, I think to myself, oh, you know, if I had been able to tune into YouTube 10 years ago and learn something, what would it be? What would I like to have learned? How would I do this? You know, and this is it. So if anybody ever asks me, you know, what would you know, if you could go back in time 10 years and tell yourself something or whatever, then what would it be? And I'd say, well, can I take a USB stick with every single one of my YouTube videos on it and show them to myself, because that's what I'm doing here. Okay. Anyway, much appreciated you tuning in. Thanks so much for that. Please hit that like, subscribe button. Catch you next time.